Holly Cotton here, and you guys know I love a good success story, and I'm so excited for our guest today. So, before I introduce him, I just want to give a little background because your girl loves fitness. I struggle with eating right. I got these muscles. I got to eat my protein. It's a lot to organize eating healthy, but the person I have today, David Lewis, who is the president of Macrobites, he is going to tell us his story of how he founded Macrobites. And then also, what I love about his story is because I love a survivor story. I love a story of triumph. And I say all the time, no one cares about you and your story unless you win. So anytime I see someone winning, I'm like, I got to hear the story and how they got to where they are. So, welcome, David Lewis.
Thank you for having me, Holly. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's start because I was fussing at David when I was reading his bio at the beginning because he was telling me and he'd been in them Jersey streets cutting up when he was younger. But he's not anymore. But go back and rewind and just so people can have whatever you want to. Obviously you don't have to say anything, but just whatever you want to expose about that, because there are people that follow me that are in their 20s. There are people that are young, they're in this and they don't know how to be successful. They don't know how to get out of the gutter. Like they just don't know. And when you don't know something is a thing, then you continue to practice the way that you're raised and in your environment. So I want people to know there are other things that you can do, and you're going to be one of those examples, David. So kind of go back and tell us about your 20s before, David Lewis, president of Macrobites today.
Yeah, so my story starts with just a lot of heartache and a typical story of a young black man in America. Really, like I got involved in drugs and selling drugs and running the streets at an early age. So I started doing drugs when I was 12. I was a full blown drug addict through high school. Even though I was a functional one, I was still a drug addict, and I sold drugs as well. And just that path led me in and out of prison in my teens and 20s. And I did my last bit and got out when I was 25. Uh, and I just wanted to make a change. Like I was tired. Like I was tired of the streets. I was tired of just everything that comes with it. Because our culture glorifies it, and we got everybody tells their testimony, and you get on a song, and the kids will listen to that. Kids like me when I was that age, and that's what I wanted to be. I listened to rappers and was like, oh, all right, that's what people who looked like me were doing. That's what everybody around me was doing. So I just thought that's what I was going to be doing too. And then I started doing it, and then when I was sitting in prison, I realized, I really don't want to be doing this. Like, this is not for me. And I'm a really nice person, a kind person. And running the streets made me have to be mean, have to be aggressive, have to be someone without morals. And that was my problem when I was young. I didn't have any morals. I didn't have any moral compass. I didn't have any beliefs. I just kind of did whatever, took whoever, to get money, and that just led me down a dark, destructive, addicted, like just hellhole of a life. So when I was released, I wanted to make a change, and fitness and health and nutrition and all of that really saved me, because while I was in prison, I worked in the ODR. So for people who don't know, that's where you cook for the staff and the officers that's in the correctional facility. So I learned how to cook there, and I had my parents sending me books about fitness and health, and because I was working out, because that was one of the only things I could do. I read every day, I worked out every day, and I cooked. So when I was released, those are the skills that I had. So when I was thinking like, what am I going to do to get out of this lifestyle? It was a easy fit to become a personal trainer. And I was also working in kitchens, worked my way up from a dishwasher to managing a country club, and then managing other restaurants, and then use my fitness background to start Macrobites. So, we cook healthy, ready to eat.
Wait. We ain't ready for Macrobites yet.
Nah, nah.
Hold on. Hold on, not yet. We still talking about David and the transition.
Okay, okay, okay. So I was
So
learning
that's
skills in prison, and
okay, got it. Now, it's funny that you said that because I recently had a guy on my show and he was exonerated because he was falsely convicted of capital murder and was on death row. Yes, and he wasn't even in the same city when the murders happened. It was like three murders. He got convicted because someone thought that they saw his car, but it wasn't him. I swear it was like the hurricane the whole time he was talking. I was like, oh my god, it wasn't even the car, it wasn't
yeah,
his. But something that you said made me think about what he said, and he was saying that being on death row, it was actually hard for him to leave whenever he was exonerated because he said there's so many good people on there that maybe one, they were innocent, and then maybe it was the situations that they had to survive that forced them to do stuff. And he was like, now they're not in those environments where you have the abuse or you have the drug use or you have something that's helping with your mental health, that now you're more equalized and stable. So now here you are in this situation, but that's not who you were then. So I love that you said that, like, you had to be hard, you had to go here, and you had to make decisions based on that because you was in the streets. Like, the streets ain't no, you can't be a punk in the streets. Like, you can't be soft, you can't be talking about affirmations. Like, no one cares about that.
for real.
It's not like there is no self-love. I gotta make this do what it do. So I
Yeah,
love that you said that.
I was being an actor. Like I was playing a role of a thug. I wanted to be a real street nigga. Like I was so obsessed with that. Like, and that's what I became. That's what became my life. Is what I was thinking about and obsessing over. And yeah, it led me into prison. But that's what when I got out, I realized if I just obsess over something else, I'm gonna be able to do that too. The same way I lived the street life to its fullest and did all the things that you do in that life. Like I can do all the other things too. So
And it's a struggle for me because I'm like, sir, your mom is me. Like, stop it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so not street. Your dad was not street. So for you to be out here in this persona, it is definitely a struggle. And so anytime he has an idea of something, I'm like, let me get you an LLC. Let's make this into a business. Like, every single time I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Let me go get that URL. Let's get a website going. I'm always trying to bring him back. Like, not
you
here,
sure you're trying, man?
over
My
here.
parents tried too because they're great people and they really tried their best. Like my dad joined the military when he was 17, uh, to because he wanted to get out of the projects, and his whole thing was getting his family out of that. And then here his son is riding his bike to the hood to go be a part of it. Like, and so
That's my son. Okay. We're not going to keep talking about David, but that's my son. I'm like, bro, you grew up in the suburbs. Like, we had the whole, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom house on the corner. You walked to school. It was in the crosswalk. Like, there was nothing hood about where we lived. Come on, cut it out. So, okay, well, I'm making him watch this episode so he can
right.
see where we're going. Okay, so now we did the background. You were here, and now you're like, I'm gonna be a trainer. I'm gonna go now. I'm in this health and wellness lifestyle. I'm pushing it. I'm pushing it. So you come through because it's like a group of you guys, right? And so tell us about how you guys came together. Who are all the people that are involved? Now we want to hear about Macrobites and how it was born.
Yeah, so I told you the origin story of me being in prison and all that. I was there with some of my best friends, and we were running the streets together. Those two guys, Fritz and Jared, are who I started the company with. Now I tried to do this by myself, and in 2017, I was managing a country club, and I wasn't feeling where I was at, and I, knew I had these skills. So I was like, all right, let me try to do this. So I was doing everything myself, and we did great for 6 months. and I burnt myself out and fell back into addictions and blew my whole life up again. And had to start over from square one in 2018. So when I came back, I realized that I needed more than just me. Like, you can't do stuff without a team. Uh, and especially what I was trying to do. Like, I was making all the deliveries for the food myself, and uh, so when we tried again, I was working in managing another restaurant, and my best friend Jared, who was my co-defendant, so we was locked up together. We was in the same prison at some points in our journey. Um, he was my assistant manager at this restaurant, and we were working there, and we turned this restaurant around. Uh, but we worked for a company that manages a bunch of different restaurants, and we were just one of many GMs of that company. Uh, and I started talking to some of the other GMs, and I realized even though our numbers were so high, we were the lowest paid GMs there. And I took a look around, and I was like, we're the only black ones here too. So that didn't sit right with me. And we were getting, talked to crazy and just not treated with respect. So, and I remember Macrobites, and I always had that like, I can do this, I can do this, but I can't do it alone. So I talked to Jared, and then Fritz was our contractor. He was coming to the restaurant helping us out, and the three of us said, you know what, let's just go for it. And we took our collective $2,000, which, think about three grown men at age 30, and all we got is $2,000 to put together. Like, that's kind of where we were in life at the time. And we went for it. And the rest is kind of history. We do healthy, ready to eat meals with a balanced macronutrient ratio. And we ship nationwide now, so we can serve the whole United States. But it didn't start that way. We had a lot of problems coming up because we started just in Jersey, and uh, COVID happened,
Mm.
forced us to have to do something else because we were selling meals in the gyms. Like, that was our thing, because I was a trainer, so
And
so
that's
I
what
knew.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Okay, so go back to how Macrobites, like how that was formulated or in your head, how it was structured. Because one, I tried some, you guys, and they were delicious. So kudos to you guys for having quality food as well. And so, how did you say, okay, I'm gonna make. I know you said you coming from working kitchens and everything else, but let me tell you, I do a bunch of stuff too, and I still don't know. I make my meal prep, but I don't know how to make other people, and even me, because I'm also a trainer as well. I don't practice, so don't hit me up. But when I did, even then, I had a meal plan that I made, and I was like, put 8 ounce 6 ounces of your protein of choice, such and such, like these are the complex carbs. I was like, so you on your own, like figure out what you like. So kind of give us the idea of, even you with all of this expertise, how did you start structuring where this is a portion of it, this is the packaging, this is how I want to look, how I want it to be? Because people always have a hustle, but it's not a business. And you had to take it from, I want it to not just be a hustle, I want it to be a business. So what is that thought process, and how did you start structuring where this is how I want to do the packaging, and these are the contents, all of that?
Well, when I was a personal trainer, I realized like my clients wouldn't hit their goals unless they were eating right. Like, all the workouts we did, it was, I don't want to say it was meaningless, because it's not meaningless, but I had clients who I didn't work out with at all, who I just did their food, and they, went dropped 30, 40 pounds, just didn't go to the gym at all. So I know the food is what really mattered. So I got really into trying to get my clients' meal plans good, because I wanted them to hit their goals, because I wanted to be successful, and I didn't want people to train with me and then not, feel like they weren't reaching their goals. But it was a bunch of moms, and they were busy, and they didn't feel like meal prepping. They didn't know how to meal prep. They didn't, and it was, I would try to give out the standard, 4 ounces of protein, half cup of carbs, cup of veggies, and like they couldn't get it done. So I started myself in my 1 bedroom apartment, just cooking it for them, putting it in regular Tupperwares, and delivering it to them on a training day, and then picking up the dishes. And I was providing that service for my small clientele, and I really honed into what was working, what wasn't. Started working with dietitians and nutritionists that was teaching me some different things, how you should structure a meal and how a balanced macronutrient ratio, no matter what somebody's goals are, is considered a healthy meal. It's good for your organs, good for your body. So that's how that came to be. And then I looked around and I saw other companies doing exactly what I was doing, but it looked way better and it was an actual business. It wasn't just some dude doing it. And I looked and I was like, I can do that. I'm already doing that. It just doesn't look like it right now. So I put my effort into how do I make this a legitimate business. So I learned, got the LLC, and did all the things to make it a legitimate business. But a step beyond that was, how do I market this? How do I get customers? And my way to get customer was, I was a personal trainer. I knew gym owners, so I was able to talk to the gym owners, and they would put my meals in their gym, and I would gain new customers there, and things were working great. But then, like I said, COVID happened, and all the gyms closed overnight in our area in New Jersey. Like, they all closed, and they were closed for a year
Mm-hmm.
almost.
Yeah, I'm in
Uh,
Texas. They didn't GAF over here. They was like, all right, it been about 3 months now. We opened like literally it was like the middle of March, and then June 1st we was already back in the gyms. Texas don't care. I'm telling you.
Yeah, nah, New Jersey wasn't like that, man. We was locked down like that. Wasn't nothing happening fitness wise out here. So when that happened, we had just started the company. We started in 2019, September 2019, and then we got in that first 3 months. We thought things were rolling. I was like, we knew a bunch of people. It was going good. People loved the food, but then that happened. All the gyms closed, so we were sitting around like, yo, we had we our bank account was overdrafted. We wasn't working. Fritz was working his other job, but we didn't really have no money. We didn't know what we was gonna do. Like, it was so, like, we almost threw it in the towel in that moment. And then I thought back to how I was feeling when I was in prison, and just like all the people who just expect me to be back in prison, expect me to live that life, and I was just like, yo, I can't just give up because it's hard. Like, I got to figure something out. And I started thinking about other companies, like, how do they do this, and how are they getting clientele? And I saw a lot of the bigger ones, they shipped nationally. So I was like, how are they shipping food? So I ordered from them and dissected their packaging and figured out, like, how are they shipping this? And I've created our own version of that. So this way, because we weren't driving meals around to gyms or to people's houses, which is what the model was, which is not a scalable model. It's, something, if you have a side hustle, it's cool. But if you want to grow, you need some type of logistical plan. And so by leveraging UPS and FedEx and major shippers and just figuring out how to package our meals in the proper way, we were able to expand. We started with just the East Coast because it was cheap for shipping. And then a month later, we did up to Texas. And then a month after that, we just went national, because we realized if we can keep the food to temp in transit, and get it there fast enough, we could serve anywhere. So, and that was a big deal because right after that, the market size just opened up to us. Now it's the whole United States instead of just our network of people here in New Jersey. And then media started catching the story about where we came from, and we kind of exploded after that, and we've been growing ever since.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, national is it. That's why I tell people all the time. I'm like, listen, because everyone wants a product. Like everyone, you start growing a brand or you start doing something, and you have to have a product. So, like for me, my products are books, my podcast, e-courses. I'm asleep and they're being sold. There's people in Japan, Russia, Romania that are buying my books and using it and doing whatever. And I'm like, you cannot stay local. You have to think big. And people always get like, I gotta sell it to the people that I know. No, that's not your customers. And people don't even want
It,
your stuff, and they think what you're doing is
yeah,
stupid.
no, we
Probably.
got a lot of that, like, because we were so connected in the community. Like, I think a lot of people who came from the surroundings that we came from just kind of you're expected to move a certain way and to act a certain way. So when me and my friends started changing, and by changing I mean like we changed our lives. We stopped standing in front of the deli drinking 40s and just hanging out with those people, because what were we doing out there? Like that's not a way we wanted to live. And we had to change the way we spoke, change the way we moved. Like we had to get a set of morals and live by them, and live by that day by day. And so the people that was in our network just kind of fell off of the and they weren't our biggest supporters. They were the people saying, "What are you doing? Like, oh, you think you different? Oh, Dave changed. Like, he don't even come around no more." Blah blah blah. Like, it was. We went through a whole lot of that. You know, small.
Mhm. Well, and I say now, I say confidently whenever people say, "Oh, you think you too good?" Because I'm from a little small country city in Louisiana, like really southern, really south. I'm like swamp people was filmed there. Like it's really country, And people will say that, "Oh, well, you don't, you forgot your roots," or this is that, or "Oh, you think you're too good." I am. Like I have done so many good things in life to put me in another position. I am too good to just go sit around and act like I'm not doing things. Like you cannot let people put you in this box because you're worried about how someone else thinks about you or having that credit or whatever, and you're stopping me from doing something and being great. Because people that are like you, that grew up like you, that are raised like you, that did things like you, they don't want to see you because that's a reflection on them. Like, oh well, but I'm still doing this, and now they're on TV shows. They're doing all of these things, and I'm still out here, like you said, in front of the store. So it's almost like you're basically telling them, like, you ain't doing nothing.
Nah, that was one of the biggest things. Like, if there was one piece of advice I would give, like a kid in the streets that's trying to get out, just get out. Change your surroundings. Go hang out with people who are doing what you want to be doing. Change your immediate circle to be what you want to be, and you'll change because you're just gonna level up to the people around you. And that's what we did as a unit. Like, we just stopped associating with the people that were bringing us down and bringing us into situations that we didn't want to be in, because that was the past. Like, we don't want to move backwards. Like, we don't want to go back to prison. So
Right.
why would we hang out with people going to
Exactly.
prison?
That's what I said. I'm not about to go back home be fighting mosquitoes, although I do fight them here in Houston too. But you know what I mean. It's a different kind of mosquito down there in the country. Anyway, okay, David, back to the next question that I have, because I've been waiting to ask this. And as I hear your story, it just sort of kept forming in my head of how I wanted to say it. So
Okay.
there are people that they always say, don't go into business with friends or don't go into business with family because you wind up destroying the friendship. Or now, actually it's so funny because I literally just did a whole thing on Saturday at Juneteenth, and Bun B was the person I was talking to. And one of the things that Bun said, he was like, don't go into business with your friends and family. He was like, because them holidays, they gonna hit different when y'all fall out over money. And he was, so he was saying that, like, get you a team, but sometimes your team needs to be a team from the outside. So there are people like yourself that are successful, and you guys did work together as a unit. And what I want to do is kind of highlight that particular part and maybe use the way that you guys form things, how the communication was. So go back and tell us how the three of you guys came together. And you said we came up with $2,000, but how did you start structuring those conversations? How did you structure it where we're having team meetings? How do you decide who's going to do what? How are we delegating these tasks? What's going on? Give us a little bit of advice about that and how that happens, because obviously it worked for you guys.
So, Bun B is right, and everybody's right. Like, it can get like that. And if I would have chose the wrong friends to try to do this with, it wouldn't have worked. Like, the only reason it worked is because Fritz and Jared have the same passion and drive I do to not want the same for their lives. They want better for their lives as well. So, one of the first things we had to do was set a standard of how we're going to act, and not just forget about the business. It's just about our morals as people, as men, as humans on this planet. Like, how are we going to live? Because we aren't lined up with that. It's trying to be in business together wasn't going to work. So before we even started the business, we started having conversations, honest conversations with ourselves about how our own actions were creating the drama and the pain that was in our lives, and that if we chose to do something, our surroundings would change, because we were in a place where we were just broke and tired and just like not knowing what we were going to do, tired of working for people, and you know uh, a lot of the misery, and not, it was all caused by just things that we were doing. It was our own actions and uh what we chose to do. So we collectively made a choice to just start moving better. And that was the first step. That was step one. Before we could even get the business started, we had to make sure that we could be on the same page, as far as our morals and our standards and how we're going to move. So once we established that, it was okay. Now, how are we going to work together? And it worked well for us because we all have different strengths and weaknesses, so our roles in the business are tailored towards that. Like I do marketing and operations. Jared used to do the operations because he's really good with in the kitchen, and he has a vast amount of experience there. But he moved on to some of the higher level stuff. He's the chair of the board now, and he's like organizing our board of directors, and getting our. He's super into investing, so he's like taking care of the investments for Macrobites and what we do with our money, and all of that stuff. I still take care of the operational stuff and the marketing. And then Fritz is a manager in the store. He had the least experience in the kitchen of all of us because he was working in construction. But he has the most experience with like hands-on stuff and like solving problems. So it was good having him at the ground level. So now we have like a three-headed monster, to where we have our different lanes that we're in, but we all kind of know how to do everything. So we were all doing everything in the beginning. Uh, it helped because if one of us is going through something, like rest in peace, Jared. Uh, uh, Jared's dad passed away, and he went through a rough time, but he had us to be there, so the business didn't just collapse because he was, in a rough period of his life. Same for me, same for Fritz. Like if any one of us is going through something, there's two guys right there to step in and keep the machine running. So that was important as well. But I think the main thing why we're able to uh, worked well together is open, honest communication, being clear with what our standards are, holding each other accountable, and expecting more. Like I expect more from Jared and Fritz than I expect from anybody else, and vice versa for them to me, because it keeps us on our game. Like we're all getting better, and in like this friendly competition type of thing too. So we're none of us wants to slack off and be doing less than the other, so that all three of us are moving together and we're just rising at the same pace, going towards the same goal. And because we have a business, it's like I tell the guys, it's like our baby together. Like I know some people think it's weird we say that, but it really is. Like we're trying to raise something from scratch. Like, and if we slack as parents, then it's not gonna work. So we all understand that, and we all know what the end result, what we're trying to get to. So no matter our different skills or whatever we're going through in life, as long as we keep those uh, in our headlights, and we know where we're going, we have our direction, it's been working out good. And it's not gonna work out with everybody. Like if I would have tried to do this with some of my other friends who I aren't really friends anymore, which I had to realize a lot of my friends, they wasn't even friends. They was just people I was getting high with and drinking with and partying with. Like it's not a friend. A friend is somebody who's gonna be there for you when all that stuff is gone and you're trying to do something serious. And I didn't have many of those. Like I had Jared and Fritz. That's it. So the fact that you can realize that, and we were able to see that in each other, and that's why it works. With some stories aren't as good because you pick the wrong people, and it's not gonna work. Like if you guys don't agree on your standards and your morals and where you're going, then it won't work. If everybody's just in it for money, like it's not gonna work. And that's the thing too. Like when none of us had any money, and even when we started getting some, like it's just uh, we were together doing it, not getting paid for years, and we're just on the bottom of it for years. So uh, it was never a thing where we're trying to take and or pull from each other, because we were all doing it for free with our just because we wanted to do it, so there was never money to get in the way because we were together without the money, like when there was nothing, and we were still working hard. So just getting some success now means we're just working even harder, and it makes us even more motivated. It makes our bond even stronger. So, it works for us. It might not work for everybody. Like, you know, take people's advice. Find the right people. I think that's the biggest thing. The right people doing the right things. Like, it doesn't matter if that's your friends or whoever it is. Like, your team has to be the right people. I lucked out, and it happened to be my friends. If you're not, if other people are listeners and that aren't that lucky, then find other people, and that's fine too.
Right. Loyalty don't have nothing to do with money. Like when it comes to money, we about the business. And that's hard for some people. I do like that you used a lot of analogies in there because all of that actually sort of segued into my next question that I wanted to ask. Because when you are an entrepreneur, where, like you said, you guys were the ones that were cooking, packaging, mailing orders, doing all of that, that requires a lot of time of your personal life, right? It like if you aren't getting it done, it's not happening. And with that comes a sacrifice of personal life, having family time, all of that sort of other personal part, right? All of those things are intertwined into that. So, what were some struggles that you felt that you dealt with when you were trying to transition to making this the actual business? Do you feel that there was a definitive line of I have to do this and these things will get pushed on the side till later? Or was this side, because I know that you are a family man as well, so did this part of it come after the business or was it during the business? And how did you navigate having the business and then a family personal life where they knew I have to sacrifice to make this happen?
So, luckily, because there's three of us, uh, the sacrifices aren't so large for any one of us, and uh, the sacrifices that were made had to be made for things that were just less important, which family isn't one of them. So I didn't sacrifice my family time. I still take my kids to school, get them off the bus. I still have a bunch of family time. But you know what? I gave up partying. I stopped going out, stopped checking on folks, and just going to all the random events that I was getting invited to. So I did have to make some sacrifices. I sacrificed what I used to consider as a lot of the fun stuff. But I grab my joy from the business and the family. So it doesn't really feel like I'm giving away anything. It feels like I'm gaining a lot by focusing. Because you're right. Like if you're on this journey, you can't be doing too many different things at once. And if you're gonna be good at anything, you're gonna have to put your time into it. And when you put your time into it, there's only so much time. So if you put your time into one thing, it has to come from somewhere. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle is because they're unwilling to take time away from the things that they like to do but aren't doing anything for them. Uh, and that's where you see, people struggling because with their businesses but they're still at the club every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But then they're complaining about their business and they don't got this, and it's like, you gotta sacrifice to get these things. So, uh, luckily for us, we all had the same idea, and we all kind of went through that transition together as a unit. So that left time for all of us to still have time for family and still put family first, and then put the business right after that and have a lot of time for that as well. The only thing that had to get sacrificed was maybe some of the funner things. Like there was a couple years where none of us went on vacations and we didn't go out much and nobody saw us and when we did pop back out, that's what everybody say. Hey, where you been? Where you been? But it was once we got our storefront in Asbury in 2021, that's when we popped back out, and everybody was like, "Oh, It's like, oh yeah, this is when we were working. We were working hard for it, and that's okay. I'm totally okay with giving up some of those things. Now, the self care, like you got to have self care because you don't want to burn out. So you got to prioritize that. But sometimes self care isn't just having fun. It could be other things. And I've that's why I love my life, man, because I've crafted my life to where I'm doing something I love. So going to work, it doesn't feel like I'm just dragged down by work. Like I don't, how people get off work and they just complain about their job and complain about everything that happened at work. Like I know a lot of people like that, and I feel sorry for them because it's like, dang, I don't relate. Like I go to work, I have a blast. I'm with my friends, we having a good time. I'm in the community, people are coming out. Like it's a good time. It's a good vibe. So it doesn't feel so much like work, even though it's hard at points and there's a lot of time. And uh, if you're doing anything worthy, it's going to be some difficulty. And that's no big deal. But to be able to get up and do something I enjoy every day and have control of my schedule and be there for all the kids, graduations and this and that, step up ceremonies and concerts and everything. I'm there for all of it, and I don't have to sacrifice any of that, and I can still be in my business. And because I love what I do, I don't have to go escape my business and go try to do something else for every weekend. Like I've spent a lot of weekends sitting in a restaurant doing work because I enjoy it.
Hey, I say the same thing when they always ask me. They're like, "Oh my God, you always working, you always doing something. Like you never stop, you never stop. Like what do you do to like what? How do you relax or what?" I'm like, listen, because I live a life. I love my life. I love everything that I do. I don't do anything that's not fun. I don't do anything that doesn't bring me enjoyment in some kind of way. Everything I do is usually community, education, whatever. And I make a ton of money doing all of these things. So why would I stop? Like I'm in a good place. I don't, I could go to Paris tomorrow. Like I'm good. Like my life is great. I don't need a vacation from my life. I love my life. So I listen. We here, David. We here.
We're at work. We're at work right now.
Yeah, like this is work, right?
Like,
Exactly. So, anywho, okay. I lied because this is my last question because that made
okay.
me think of one last question I want to ask you. I want to definitely be respectful of your time. But the last question that I have is so I want people to look at just like you've done the media and it's the three of you guys. It's three black men standing here talking about how hey, we came from the streets and we made a business and this is what it's doing and it's actually a healthy business. It's about lifestyle, wellness, health, like all of that into one. It's teaching people how to count macros. It's giving you healthy food options. We ship nationwide. Like you guys are standing up here united like we covered all the bases. We're even though we're friends, we came from different areas, but we have had struggles, we have had obstacles. Thankfully we all aligned, came together, all of that. So it's three black men standing here talking about the success of their company. What is one of the obstacles that now when you're reflecting on the success, what was one of the biggest obstacles? Because people see you guys as this unit and happy and going and successful, but obviously they don't see the losses that happened during that. So the biggest learning lesson, the learning curve or the obstacle, give that to us.
Yeah, so one of the biggest obstacles that we really couldn't change is just the fact that we were three black men and three felons. So like traditional things like going to a bank and getting a loan. I remember when we brought our business plan to a bank, dude laughed at us. Like he laughed in my face, like
Bastard, right.
laughed at me. And we ended up switching banks anyway, so F him. But like just the perception of what we're supposed to be doesn't uh line up with who we are. So when we go meet people, and they, some people just come from these worlds where their perception of a young black man is 50 Cent or just a rapper. That's what they think of. So when you come in a suit and you're articulate and you can speak, like you see surprise on people's faces. And that was an obstacle for us because in the beginning, like I was just like, man, F all these people. I was so upset because I was trying to change my life and I wanted to be better and I wanted more for myself. And then here I go and try to pitch our business and go into a room full of old white men and they look at me like I'm crazy, like I should have been in there tap dancing for them or something instead of speaking about a business plan. So just getting that, and this is probably something that'll never stop because we're in America and we're black, so and we're felons, and that's not gonna stop. So this is like an ongoing challenge of people perceiving us to be a certain way, and it doesn't match their expectations. So there's just discrimination. There's been times where we've gotten approved for a loan, and then we had to send the IDs in, and then all of a sudden we were declined for the loan because Jared had his credit up, so we used his name. We were good. Like I thought, like all right, we're gonna get this 10K. This is in the beginning. It's 2019. I thought we had it. We got all the paperwork is in, and we're in the underwriting stage, and they're like, all right, let's send in your IDs, your passports, blah blah blah. We send it in, and then we get a letter saying we got rejected. Like, all right, why? Like, I don't understand. So there's been many small things like that, and then the microaggressions. Like Frisk has had white ladies come in the store and grab his hair because he got dreads. Like stuff like that is just frustrating, man. Sometimes it's just frustrating to just be black here, and I, and I don't know, all these small things. Like we could have got on for a full hour and just talked about.
And you light skinned black. You light skinned
Yeah,
black. So
exactly. It's like it's but then on the other side, like, so you got that coming from white folks, and then our own people on the other side treat us a certain way because now we acting different, and now we don't do this and that. And we put our storefront is in the middle of the projects in Asbury. It's the only healthy food store anywhere close, and we did that for a reason, so we could represent for these kids that grow up and they just see a bunch of nonsense, and we're trying to change that narrative, at least in our little city. Um, but sometimes it's a struggle getting our own people on board with health and fitness and what we're doing, and we get a lot of backlash and rejection from our own people, which hurts because we're trying to do it for them in a way, and it's like, dang, I wish it wasn't like this. So it feels like we get it from kind of both ends. Like if we're not white enough for white folks, not black enough for black folks, especially because we're not selling drugs and putting that message out there. Like we get looked at as just lames, like we're not cool, and because it's happening because I see it on social media. It's happening, but it hasn't happened yet. Where being smart, educated, and squared away and having morals, that's not considered cool yet. Like it is sometimes in some circles and some, when you get around some other black folks who have made it in life and they're like investment bankers and they're doing other things, like I feel like we get it. But in the hood, sometimes people just don't get it. Like people talk about killing other people like they talk about the weather. Yeah, such and such, yeah, we smoked them in the pack, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, such and such this. And I'm like, yo, what are y'all doing? Don't y'all see we're killing each other over nothing? Like nothing? And it gets frustrating trying to preach a message of positivity when you have so much negativity around you. And then on the other side, the white folks still, just because you're black, no matter what you're doing, like you ain't good enough for them. So sometimes we feel like we don't know where we fit in. Like we're just kind of this little isolated group. Luckily, those experiences have been smaller than the overwhelming support and love that we get from most folks. But those instances where it does happen, it still hurts and it's still a struggle trying to navigate that.
and there is a lady, I can't remember. I don't remember exactly verbatim what she said, but she told a story about how she wanted these shoes so bad from her mom when she was little. And her mom got her the shoes, but they were the wrong size shoe. And so she tells this whole story of how she thought that the shoe was like wrong. She was mad at her mom. This is not the shoes that I want. And her mom was like, you're going to grow into those shoes. And then she grew into the shoes, and now she uses it like a life analogy. And she's like, that sometimes you have to grow into where you're supposed to be. And we don't look at it that way. We look at it as this ain't right, this ain't working, this ain't it, and everybody else is like, well, why you got on them ugly shoes, or them shoes ain't your shoes, and then all of a sudden your foot grows and you fit into that shoe perfectly, and you're like, I told y'all this was my shoe, but it was the way she said it was like a beautiful analogy, but that's the gist of it. So it's like you guys grew into your shoe. I love that.
I
I
like.
love that.
Thank you for that analogy. That was a good one.
Yeah, yes. And baby, my shoes is some Versace's now or some Valentine. You know what I mean? I thought they was like some little Asics, but I realize now I'm like, oh, and actually these are some designer shoes. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, everybody. So, okay, so how can people find, like, support you guys? How can they get some meals? And then what can we do to support you guys with growing the whatever? Like, because sometimes I tell people, even if you don't buy a product, this is how you can support. So, how can people support you guys and find you and all of that?
Yeah, for sure. So you can find us on macrobites.com. That's where you buy food at. And all the socials are Macrobites, Macrobites. And if you don't need healthy food and you don't want to order a box, which is the biggest thing you could do to support us, is become a subscriber. But if that's not your thing, we give out free food every day in front of our store to the people who need it. It's one of the things that we decided we wanted to do with our business, was give back, since we took away from the community so much in our youth. And you can always make a donation for that effort. It's foundationfortheculture.org. You can make a donation there, and all the money that gets donated there we use to make healthy meals to give back to the community. So
Oh, I love that. See, I knew I liked you, Daddy Lou, Daddy D Lou. What's your social media? Because they might want to follow you just regular social on your
at
Instagram.
underscore daddy DLEW. Daddy.
Yeah. So he got mad at me, y'all, because I didn't know what his name was. Like I was like, well, I've been calling you Daddy since we started following each other. I didn't even pay attention to the actual David Lewis part. So thank you so much, David, for sharing your story. And not only that, but thank you for being the change. Thank you guys, everyone, like just send huge hugs to the whole team, because like you said, it's a team effort. And I just love what you guys are doing and how you're changing the narrative. So thank you for sharing your story.